April 10th, 1912. The world watched in awe as the largest, most luxurious ship ever built departed on her maiden voyage. The RMS Titanic, a marvel of modern engineering, hailed as unsinkable. And then, 4 days later, after she left from Southampton, England to New York City, she lay shattered on the Atlantic seabed, taking more than 1,500 souls with her. The official story: a tragic accident, an iceberg, and that is the end of the story. Case closed. But what if that's not the whole story? What if Titanic's sinking was not an act of nature, but an act of power? A silent execution hidden in plain sight? Let's dive deeper. The loss of so many lives that cold April night is, without question, one of history's greatest heartbreaks. It leaves us wondering, what more could have been done? What really went wrong? But what if there's something beneath the surface? A darker current that pulled Titanic and some of its passengers into disaster long before she ever struck the ice. Now, before you dismiss the idea, hear me out. In researching this story, I uncovered countless accounts, strange details about the ship's troubled construction, troubling witness testimonies, and even the peculiar actions of certain financial elites in the weeks leading up to the voyage. Were they merely coincidences, or signs of a larger, more sinister plan? I want to take you below deck, beyond the polished myths and heroic legends, and into the theories that suggest Titanic may have been doomed from the very beginning. So, let's get right into it. To understand this theory, we begin with one man, John Pierpont Morgan. By 1910, Morgan's empire spanned steel, railroads, and the North Atlantic itself. Through the International Mercantile Marine, IMM, he owned the White Star Line, builder of Titanic, and sought to dominate ocean shipping. His strategy: buy up American and British lines, forge pacts with German rivals, and turn chaos into a cartel. Profit through control. But competition fought back. The British government poured £2.6 million in loans and annual subsidies into Cunard's Lusitania and Mauretania, fast, government-backed liners that could serve as warships. Cunard's success threatened to break Morgan's grip on transatlantic travel. And when it rains, it pours because disaster came. In September 1911, Titanic's sister ship, RMS Olympic, collided with HMS Hawke. White Star was held liable. Insurance didn't pay. Therefore, Titanic's launch was delayed, and IMM's finances strained. Also, early 1912 brought a crippling British coal strike, sending fuel prices soaring and forcing ships to idle. Titanic herself scavenged coal from other liners just to depart. Meanwhile, Morgan faced political fire at home. Congress's Pujo Committee was investigating his financial empire, the so-called Money Trust. This was Morgan's world in April 1912, fierce competitors, mounting debt, and political scrutiny. Some argue this gave him motive, not just to save a company, but to protect a global financial agenda. And when Titanic sailed, it carried not just passengers, but some claim Morgan's most dangerous obstacles. Among Titanic's first-class passengers were three of America's wealthiest men: John Jacob Astor IV, Benjamin Guggenheim, and Isidor Straus. According to conspiracists, these men stood in the way of a powerful financial revolution, the creation of a central bank, the Federal Reserve. America's financial system at the time was unstable, rocked by panics in 1893 and 1907. The latter was so severe that J.P. Morgan himself intervened to stop collapse, solidifying his image as the nation's banker. But to Morgan and his allies, a permanent solution was needed: a central bank to stabilize markets and concentrate credit. Critics warned this would hand unprecedented power to a handful of elites. Their fears deepened after November 1910, when a secretive meeting at Jekyll Island, Georgia, produced the blueprint for the Federal Reserve. Attendees included Senator Nelson Aldrich, banker Paul Warburg, and Morgan's partner Henry P. Davison, men with everything to gain from centralization. Were Astor, Guggenheim, and Straus truly opposed to this plan? Even though hard evidence is lacking, Their independent wealth could threaten its dominance. So then, on April 14th, 1912, they were gone. Interestingly enough, J.P. Morgan himself had booked a lavish suite aboard Titanic, complete with private promenade. Days before departure, he cancelled, remaining at a French resort. Coincidence or foresight? 1 year later, the Federal Reserve Act became law, forever changing America's financial landscape. To believers, Titanic was no accident. It was the opening move in a silent war for control of money. But is it true? Now, with that said, let's look into this theory if it holds water. Let's jump back and revisit that fateful night, when the Titanic met her destiny in the North Atlantic, April 14th, 1912. The Titanic cuts through a flat moonless sea over 22 knots. Ice warnings are ignored. At 11:40 p.m., she strikes what the record says is an iceberg. But some survivors recalled explosions deep below. A coal fire had been smouldering in Titanic's bunker for days, weakening steel bulkheads. Was the iceberg merely the final blow to a ship already compromised? Possibly. Although nearby, the SS Californian sat idle, carrying no passengers but thousands of wool blankets. Interesting cargo to be carrying at that time. When Titanic's rockets lit the night, Californian's captain failed to respond. Some theorists claim Californian was meant to rescue survivors of a controlled sinking, but the plan went horribly wrong. Official inquiries blame miscommunication. To many, it remains one of the night's strangest silences. And then, the absences. J.P. Morgan, Milton Hershey, other prominent figures, all booked, all cancelled. Were these mere coincidences or signs of foreknowledge? Historians counter that conspiracy fades under scrutiny. Titanic was underinsured. Its loss devastated White Star financially. The wreck bears ID 401, proving no ship swap. It would be nearly impossible to swap out the Olympic for the Titanic in a short time frame, along with the large magnitude of workers needed to do this. Eventually, there would always be someone who would testify to this, because secrets are hard to keep. Metallurgical studies confirm iceberg damage as the cause, not sabotage. And there's no evidence Astor, Guggenheim or Strauss opposed the Federal Reserve. Strauss even supported reform. As for the Californian, inquiries found negligence, not conspiracy. And Morgan's cancellation, planned weeks ahead due to business and health. To most experts, Titanic's tragedy was the product of hubris, human error, and bad luck. Yet, even the most steadfast skeptics admit, the unanswered questions still haunt. If this was mere accident, why were so many details downplayed? The coal fire, the ignored ice warnings, the Californians' inaction, all minimized in inquiries dominated by White Star interests. J.P. Morgan, meanwhile, emerged unscathed, his financial empire intact. Within a year, the Federal Reserve Act cemented a new era of centralized banking power. Was Titanic a tragedy of arrogance or the perfect crime? We may never know. But in history, as in the North Atlantic, some things remain buried deep, waiting for those willing to dive for them. We may never know if Titanic was doomed by fate or by design. The evidence for conspiracy is circumstantial, the coincidences unsettling. In a world where false flags have toppled nations, could the Titanic story have been rewritten to protect the powerful? Perhaps the only thing more unthinkable than the Titanic sinking is the possibility that we were never told why. What do you believe? Once again, thanks for watching. Support the channel by hitting the like and subscribe button so I can continue providing you food for curiosity. Till the next one, take care and stay curious.